The Doldrums started with just a solo piano song, and it went through a bunch of different kind of evolutions of, I guess, what I wanted it to sound like. Because at first it had a different name. I mean, it went through like a lot of different lives. And it was a really beautiful and very simple song at first. It's just like a piano voice. And one of the first sessions that I did, I did all of the piano, all of the guitar, and all of the vocals. So it was like a core song that was like the original session that I did by myself, and I had like stacked vocals. So that's kind of what was like the foundation of all the songs. And this one, the first studio, the second session, basically, like when I started kind of adding things to it, I would play it for people, and everyone would just be like, "It sounds good like this," and I'm just like, no, I just wasn't quite satisfied with it being a simple song. Because I'm like, this is probably one of the darkest songs on the album. Especially, I cut down the lyrics a lot on the Doldrums because it was one of those ones that was just like a scroll that was this long with lyrics, and I had to kind of like cut it down. And some of those original lyrics, man, I go back and read them now, and it's like, wow, I was in a bad place, like just really dark place. Just, I think everyone at some point you get, I don't know how deep I want to go into that. Like, it's kind of hard to talk about some of that, but just know it's like dark stuff. And I wanted it to feel more like emerging from some sort of darkness, and it needed to feel creepier. So I just kind of kept tweaking it until it started to feel almost and I think Rebirth kind of has a similar feeling where there's a little bit of detachment from humanity in it, and that's what I was trying to get the sense of. Like, sometimes when you feel like you could leave this life and you don't have this attachment to existence, when you look around and you like see people frolicking through a field, like playing with their dogs and stuff, you just don't feel that. And it feels almost like you're a robot, or like you've left your body in some way.
Like disassociating a bit?
Yeah, disassociating. And I wanted to capture that feeling. And the only way I felt like I could really do it was introducing something that wasn't acoustic sounding. And so there is this kind of theme on a lot of the songs where it kind of reveals that sense of like detachment, where there's like glitchy elements, or it's like processed in some way where it's not just a person expressing their raw emotions. It's like a person trying to find the will to live and feeling alive.
For the kiss, I would do most anything. For the kiss, I would do most anything. For the kiss of someone new.
The kiss to me feels like some sort of soundtrack to my own movie. Because it's so, I find the story so pathetic that it's almost comical. It's like you're just trying to find, I actually, the way that it was all sequenced, I felt like it was a perfect way to come out of the doldrums, because it's still just as sad, but it's almost like you're watching someone peel themselves off the ground, or at least like come back into their body in some way. I wish there were a million more words to express exactly how we feel, because there, it's when you dumb something down into being like, oh, this is sad. It's like, well, what kind of sadness are you feeling? Like, what do you mean by that? And like longing and that kind of despondent desire, it really, I don't know, it really resonates with me. Like when I hear other people's songs like that, I'm like, I know exactly that feeling of, wishing something was different, or bargaining in some way for a better outcome. I think that I was really trying to express that feeling in that song in kind of a cinematic, like lone person walking down the street on an empty street at night kind of feeling, or a person lying in their bed imagining this like world around them that they're too depressed to experience. Yeah, and then it, to me, there's like a big a release from that at the end. It's my favorite part of the record, actually. That like big release, sound bath. It's like very luxurious to me.
I just wanna write a song that keeps you in my arms forever.
I think anybody who's going through a breakup and like it didn't go your way has probably experienced something like that, where you're just like, wow, it's just so sad. It's almost funny. And to me, that song is so funny. I'm like, it's like to trap someone in a basement and get them to love you. It's so pathetic. And yeah, it was just like another one of those moments where I like a lot of songs that it sounds like a person thinking, and I tend to do that a lot. It's like I'll have a song where it sounds like you can like hear all my thoughts, and that's definitely one of them.
You're gonna hate this song. Just tell me what you want.
Yeah, Tell Me What You Want was another really early song that went through a lot of changes. I'd originally done it. It was, the story of it was different. It was just an idea that I had years ago, and then I sort of it resurfaced a bit, and I demoed it out. And I usually what I'll do is like demo a song, and I'll send it to my parents, and I'll send it to like some trusted ears, and it's usually my dad that will review a track for me, and he shredded me for the first version of that song, and he basically told me it was not up to snuff. It was not as good as the other songs on the album, and that I should pretty much like scrap the song. I think he called it like low-hanging fruit or something. And I was like, well, I guess I gotta start this one over. And I went back to it and was like, he's kind of right. Like, and that's the thing. That's like, oh, my dad, he'll just rip me to shreds, and I'm like, but he's right. He's right, that asshole. And so I redid it, and I was like, I gotta go deep on this. I'm going deep on all these songs. I can't half-ass anything at this point. Like, if I'm really gonna do this, I gotta go all in. And so I rewrote the song, and I just kind of said what I really wanted to say. It's like written basically to my ex and all the things that I was experiencing at the time, like wish I could have said. And I guess it's another one of those like release songs for me.
Yeah,
like,
and
gotta get this off my chest.
right.
And that's kind of how the song starts. Is like, I gotta get this off my chest.
Yeah.
I'm happy with how that came out, though. I'm really happy about it. I liked it a lot more. I'm glad that my dad
Yeah.
was
Pushed you.
so harsh on me. Love song for myself is such a funny concept. Like, and it is such a true story too. I was just feeling so bad about, realizing for kind of the first time in my life how much I've been so hard on myself my whole life. I've like always been my fiercest, harshest critic, besides my dad, of course. But like even on a personal level, I mean, just like constantly always judging myself, and I think that like really chips away at your spirit over time. And now that I didn't even understand the concept of self-compassion. Like I didn't, when I first learned about the whole practice of self-compassion, or even what it like was, I just started crying so intensely because I had never even thought about being kind to myself in that way. I've always been like sort of militant with my, like just so harsh on myself. And it's like I would never treat my friends or my family that way. Like, why would I treat myself that way? And all these kind of things kept coming up, and that song is just like it was just sort of me laughing about that. Like, it's like, well, I don't totally know how to love myself, but like if I'm a piece of dung, I'm gonna be like the sexiest piece of dung I've ever seen, And let's start there. Let's start there, and there's only one direction to go from there.
Jill says I'm gonna be just fine. Jill says people do this all of the time.
Yeah, Jill is my therapist, and she was kind of my best friend there for a while. It's like I didn't really have anywhere to go, and man, yeah, when you're in a pretty isolated situation and just feeling so down, you really start to appreciate what you've got in your life, and I was so appreciative of her that. Wow, I still am. She's still my therapist. And she kind of helped, I don't know, it was like somebody holding your hand as you're discovering things about yourself and going through some really difficult things that you've sort of buried, which is another like recurring like theme of memory is like my own memories that I had just buried like under all this stuff, and she was kind of helping me uncover a lot of this like during this whole process of like, well, if I'm feeling this bad, might as well just rip every single Band-Aid on my body and do it all at once. Like, if we're gonna do this, let's just do it all and hope for the best. And that song's a little nod to Jill, and it mostly centers around my breakup, but I was also just going through so many things at that time, and she she's really helped me through a lot of it. But that was also a tip of my cap to Jill, and also tipping my cap to a difficult relationship that ended, and honoring it. It's like the way that the album rolls out is I want people to feel more hopeful by the time you get to the end of it. It's like some sort of dark clouds are starting to part. Like, it's not all sunshine and rainbows, but there's like there's reality to it, where it's like it's gonna be okay. It's you're not at rock bottom anymore. And I think one way of expressing that is like when you go through something painful, like a difficult breakup or whatever, you can look back on it and be like, oh, I became a much better person because of that. And even though it was really painful and it didn't go the way we'd planned, I still appreciate that it happened and love that it happened, and can care about this person.
Where do I go from here? From here?
Where do I go from here feels like the most hopeful song to me. And it's not, it's still sad. And it's still like pretty dark, but I think it's like a very realistic look at life and how you have to get through the bullshit and make your way to the other side somehow. It's like everybody goes through shit. Everybody goes through hard times. It's not easy for anyone. And to me, it was like I've got to make my own constitution, have my own boundaries, learn how to love myself, and pick myself up and move on. Because the longer you dwell on things, the longer it takes to enjoy your life.
Yeah.
And it just felt like a perfect bookend. From the moment I wrote that song, I knew it was like the perfect bookend, the perfect way to end a story. And Love Lover Friend just felt like the perfect way to start it, and this one just felt like the perfect way to end it.
Yeah.
And it maintained kind of all the way through.
I feel like this whole process of this record and you making it the last couple of years, we keep going back to the idea of like just learning how to love yourself again, learning how to trust yourself. Mm-hmm. And what I think is really beautiful is that we have this tangible product of your work doing that now with this record, because everything from, of course, the songs you're writing and what you're talking about, but the work that you poured into it as a producer is just incredible. And I feel like it's just this beautiful like representation of where you've been and now where you are, and also like with where do I go from here, like where you want to potentially be, or like where you want to kind of direct your energy going forward. So I feel like you did an incredible job like tackling all of that with this record.
Yeah, this album definitely documents the whole process. I was writing through the whole process, and it really kind of follows a like particular timeline of growth, and it feels special to me. I don't know. I'm really grateful that I did it this way, and I took my time doing it. I didn't feel rushed in any way at all. And I didn't have any I don't really have any regrets at all on this album. It feels very full, and it feels very me. I'm really happy I produced it, and that was a good decision. I stand by.